welcome back to Globewise Entertainment, your ultimate gateway to the most fascinating, shocking, and untold stories from the world of movies and animation. Today, we're diving deep into a wild and controversial corner of anime history, the 10 Japanese animated movies from the 1990s that were banned or censored. From cult classics too extreme for TV, to childhood favorites pulled from the airwaves, you won't believe the reasons these titles were locked away. If you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, hit that button now, and tell us in the comments which of these banned films surprised you the most. 1. Midori, Shoujo Tsubaki, Chika Gento Gekiga, Shoujo Tsubaki, 1992. Midori, the 1992 anime that Japan tried to erase. In 1992, an underground anime film quietly surfaced in Japan, Midori, Shoujo Tsubaki *, also known as Chika Gento Gekiga, Shoujo Tsubaki. Unlike the colorful heroic tales that anime fans were used to, Midori told a dark, surreal story that shocked audiences from the very first scene. Adapted from an underground 1960s manga, the film follows a young orphan named Midori who joins a traveling circus, only to find that life under the big top is far from magical. The animation blends dreamlike sequences with unsettling imagery, creating a viewing experience that feels both like a haunting fairy tale and a disturbing nightmare. What made Midori infamous wasn't just its unsettling tone, it was the fact that it pushed the boundaries of what Japanese animation had ever attempted. Its raw, uncompromising portrayal of cruelty and despair led to outrage, and the movie was swiftly pulled from circulation. In fact, it became so controversial that most official copies disappeared, and rumors swirled that some reels were intentionally destroyed. Yet, this act of erasure only fueled its legend. For years, Midori existed in whispers, passed around by collectors, discussed in hushed tones at film clubs, and resurfacing in censored or incomplete forms. Today, it's viewed not just as a disturbing piece of animation history, but as a work of underground art that challenged the boundaries of storytelling in the medium. Love it or hate it, Midori remains one of the most talked about Japanese animated films of the 1990s, proof that even in animation, some stories are simply too powerful or too controversial to stay in the light. 2. Urotsukidoji, Inferno Road, 1993. The film too extreme for its time. The shocking story of Urotsukidoji, Inferno Road. In the early 1990s, Japan's anime industry was experimenting with bold, risky themes, sometimes going far beyond what audiences were ready for. Among the most infamous titles to emerge from this era was Urotsukidoji, Inferno Road, released in 1993. Part of the Legend of the Overfiend saga, Inferno Road blended dark fantasy, supernatural battles, and intense action. But what truly set it apart was its unapologetic plunge into extreme territory, depicting violence and mature themes in a way that had rarely been seen in animation before. When it first hit the market, the film quickly built a reputation. In Japan, it gained a cult following for its detailed animation and epic, otherworldly battles. But overseas, it was another story entirely. Censors in countries like the UK, Australia, and several European nations took one look and declared it too much for public release. In some places, it was outright banned. In others, only heavily edited versions were allowed, with entire scenes removed. For fans, these cuts meant they never got the complete story, leading to underground, uncut VHS copies being traded in secret. This only fueled its legend, turning Inferno Road into a kind of forbidden treasure for collectors of rare anime. Today, while it remains controversial, the film stands as a symbol of a time when anime was pushing the boundaries of what was possible on screen, often sparking debates about freedom of expression versus public decency. And whether you see it as a misunderstood artistic experiment or simply too extreme for its own good, one thing's certain: Urotsukidoji, Inferno Road will forever be remembered as one of the most notorious anime films of the 1990s. 3. Violence Jack, 1996. Violence Jack, 1996, the OVA too brutal for the censors. In the mid-1990s, anime was rapidly gaining international attention, but Violence Jack was a title that even the boldest distributors approached with caution. Based on Go Nagai's post-apocalyptic manga, the 1996 OVA collection unleashed a vision of a devastated Japan where survival meant enduring the worst of humanity. The story follows a towering anti-hero, Jack, who wanders through a wasteland created by a massive earthquake. Here, law and morality have collapsed, and gangs rule with ruthless power. Jack isn't a traditional savior, he's a brutal force of nature who confronts cruelty with even greater strength. The series didn't shy away from showing just how dangerous and hopeless this new world had become, and it quickly drew the attention of censorship boards. In the UK, the British Board of Film Classification demanded significant cuts. Over 6 minutes were removed from the episode Hell's Wind before it could be released. In Australia, Evil Town, one of the OVA installments, was outright refused classification, meaning it couldn't be sold legally at all. Even in Japan, the raw violence and unflinching tone made Violence Jack infamous. But for many anime fans, that notoriety only fueled its cult status. Today, it stands as one of the most controversial anime exports of the 1990s, remembered not just for its graphic imagery, but for pushing the boundaries of what animated storytelling could explore. It's a reminder that sometimes, in animation, the most extreme worlds aren't about escapism, they're about confronting the darkness head-on. For Kite, 1998. In the late 1990s, anime was beginning to push boundaries like never before. Among the titles that stood out, for both its artistry and controversy, was Kite, a 1998 OVA that blended gritty urban crime drama with a deeply emotional, tragic undertone. The film follows Sawa, a seemingly ordinary young woman living in a city plagued by corruption and organized crime. Orphaned at a young age, she's taken in by 2 detectives, men who promise to protect her, but in reality, manipulate her into becoming a highly skilled assassin. By day, she blends into the crowd. By night, she carries out deadly missions, targeting powerful criminals who hide behind the law. What made Kite so controversial wasn't just its shocking violence, but certain scenes that crossed cultural and legal lines in some countries. In Norway, for example, the film was outright banned for years under strict media laws. Other countries released heavily edited versions, cutting several minutes of footage to make it suitable for audiences. Despite this, Kite has remained a cult classic, praised for its striking animation style, intense action sequences, and the haunting tragedy at its core. It's a story about innocence stolen, the blurred lines between justice and revenge, and the price one pays for survival in a world without mercy. Today, the film is often discussed as a cautionary tale, not just for its characters, but for the creators and audiences who debate where art ends and controversy begins. 5. Ninja Scroll, 1993. Released in 1993, Ninja Scroll became an instant classic in the world of Japanese animation, celebrated for its breathtaking action sequences, stunning hand-drawn artistry, and gripping tale of warriors, treachery, and supernatural foes. But beneath its cinematic beauty lay moments that pushed boundaries for the time. Certain scenes contained intense violence and a controversial moment of implied sexual threat, material that did not sit well with censors in several countries. In the UK, for example, the British Board of Film Classification ordered around 52 seconds to be removed before the film could be legally sold, specifically targeting sequences deemed too graphic for general audiences. Despite these cuts, Ninja Scroll thrived internationally, gaining a devoted fan base who praised its combination of mature storytelling, historical fantasy, and thrilling martial arts combat. Today, it's remembered not only as one of the most influential anime films of the 1990s, but also as a landmark example of how censorship debates shaped the global perception of Japanese animation. 6. Patlabor 2, the movie, 1993. Patlabor 2, the movie, 1993. At first glance, Patlabor 2 doesn't seem like the kind of anime you'd expect to face controversy. There's no graphic horror, no extreme violence, and no risque content. Instead, this 1993 animated film stirred debates for a completely different reason: its politics. Set in a near-future Japan, the story revolves around a shadowy conspiracy within the government and the military. It dares to ask unsettling questions. What if the Japan Self-Defense Forces turned against their own leaders? What if the very system meant to protect the country became the greatest threat to its peace? These themes hit close to home in Japan, where the post-war constitution strictly limits the military's role. Some critics feared the movie's depiction of an attempted coup could be seen as an attack on real-world institutions. As a result, certain broadcasters and distributors handled the film with extreme caution. While it was never officially banned, it was quietly kept out of some television schedules and rarely promoted in mainstream media at the time. Ironically, the controversy only strengthened its reputation. Fans praised Patlabor 2 for its intelligent script, cinematic animation, and willingness to challenge the audience. Today, it's remembered not as an outlawed film, but as one of the boldest political thrillers in anime history, proof that sometimes a story can be censored not for what it shows, but for what it dares to say. 7. Pokémon Dino Senshi Porygon, 1997. Pokémon Dino Senshi Porygon, 1997. It was December 16, 1997, and millions of kids across Japan tuned in to watch their favorite show, Pokémon. The episode was called Dino Senshi Porygon, or Electric Soldier Porygon, and it featured Ash and his friends traveling into cyberspace to stop Team Rocket's latest plan. Everything was normal, until a single scene changed television history. During a battle, Pikachu unleashed a thunderbolt attack against a computer missile. The resulting explosion was shown as rapid, red and blue flashing lights, a special animation effect called paka paka in Japanese. But in real life, this wasn't just a cool visual trick, it became a medical emergency. Within seconds, some children watching at home began feeling dizzy. Others complained of blurred vision, headaches, or nausea. And tragically, hundreds began experiencing seizures. Emergency lines lit up across Japan, and more than 600 children were rushed to hospitals nationwide. News spread like wildfire. This was no longer just a cartoon episode, it was a national crisis. The Japanese government, doctors, and broadcasters all stepped in immediately. The episode was pulled from rotation and banned from ever being re-aired. Even more shocking? Porygon, the titular Pokémon, was never to blame in the plot, but because of the controversy, it became a near-exiled character in the franchise for years. The incident forced sweeping changes in Japan's animation industry, leading to strict safety guidelines for flashing lights and strobe effects in TV broadcasts worldwide. Today, the Dino Senshi Porygon episode remains one of the most infamous examples of anime censorship, not because of violence or politics, but because it quite literally made history by sending kids to the hospital. It's a sobering reminder that sometimes, censorship isn't about content, it's about protecting the audience. 8. Pokémon, the uncut story of Mewtwo's origin. Pokémon, the uncut story of Mewtwo's origin. In 1999, at the height of the Pokémon craze, fans across the globe were preparing for the release of Pokémon, the first movie. But there was one part of that cinematic experience that most audiences never saw, a haunting, emotional short known as The Uncut Story of Mewtwo's Origin. This 10-minute prequel was intended to play before the main feature, revealing the heartbreaking backstory of Mewtwo, not just as a powerful Pokémon, but as a living being created through cloning experiments. In this tale, we see scientists bring Mewtwo to life from the DNA of the mythical Mew, but it's not the triumphant birth one might expect. Mewtwo drifts in a dreamlike state, communicating telepathically with other clones, including a young clone of a human girl named Amber. Through these moments, the short explores themes of friendship, loneliness, and the fragility of life. But then, tragedy strikes. One by one, Mewtwo's companions fade away, their life forces unable to hold. Left utterly alone, Mewtwo awakens in a laboratory, his grief quickly turning into rage. While beautifully animated and deeply moving, this short was considered far too intense for younger audiences. Its depiction of death, emotional trauma, and questions about the ethics of cloning made distributors uneasy. As a result, it was cut from all international releases and shown only in Japan. Outside of a few rare VHS and DVD editions, most Pokémon fans never even knew it existed, until it began circulating online years later, becoming a hidden gem of anime history. Even today, the uncut story of Mewtwo's origin stands out as one of Pokémon's most mature and thought-provoking pieces, a reminder that even in a franchise known for light-hearted battles and colorful creatures, some stories cut much deeper than expected. 9. Other Pokémon episodes, late 1990s. The late 90s Pokémon craze was unstoppable. Kids traded cards in the playground, battled on Game Boys, and rushed home to catch Ash and Pikachu on TV. But behind the scenes, not every episode made it to the airwaves. Several Pokémon episodes from the 1990s were quietly pulled or never aired at all outside Japan. The reasons? Surprisingly varied. Some episodes contained imagery or themes that clashed with cultural sensitivities in certain countries, like scenes with samurai outfits, which were cut in South Korea, or moments referencing traditional Japanese customs that didn't translate well for international audiences. Other episodes were pulled for more serious reasons. Some coincidentally mirrored real-life tragedies, such as natural disasters or events that made certain storylines feel too close to home for viewers. In Turkey, the light-hearted episode, Sing Purin, was banned outright, while episodes featuring the character Jinx were globally removed due to debates over the character's design. What's fascinating is that these weren't violent or adult-themed shows. They were bright, colorful adventures aimed at kids. Yet even a worldwide phenomenon like Pokémon wasn't immune to censorship. These decisions remind us how cultural context, timing, and public sensitivity can change how entertainment is received, no matter how innocent it might seem. 10. Various Pokémon episodes triggered by attacks or disasters. In the late 1990s, Pokémon had taken over the world. Kids everywhere were glued to their TVs, collecting cards, and humming that unforgettable theme song. But behind the bright colors and cheerful adventures, the show also ran into moments where real-world tragedies forced it off the air. Several Pokémon episodes were pulled, delayed, or outright banned, not because of anything offensive in the story itself, but because they accidentally mirrored heartbreaking real-life events. For example, episodes featuring collapsing buildings, explosions, or storm-related destruction were temporarily removed in the aftermath of natural disasters like earthquakes and typhoons in Japan. Similar decisions were made internationally when certain episodes had visuals or themes too close to major incidents, such as the September 11th attacks, out of respect for those affected. These bans weren't permanent in every case. Some episodes quietly returned years later, while others remain locked away in the vault. For many fans, these lost episodes have become a fascinating piece of Pokémon history, a reminder of how entertainment can sometimes collide with reality in ways no one could predict. And there you have it, 10 unforgettable Japanese animated movies from the 1990s that were either banned or heavily censored. Whether it was shocking violence, controversial themes, or real-world events that got them pulled, each one has left a mark on anime history. If you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, now's the perfect time. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss our deep dives into film and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, which of these titles shocked you the most, or is now on your must-watch list.